Welcome back to the Fried Egg Golf Podcast. I am your host, Andy Johnson, and today I'm really excited. We got some new stuff cooking. If you haven't been to our website in a while, we've been investing a lot of time and energy into the website. We've got Bo on our team, who you probably have never heard of. He does great work on the website, constantly improving it, and the latest feature is called Fried Egg Guides. So what we're going to do with these pages is kind of break down popular destinations. So this podcast is all about a couple popular destinations, Pinehurst, Sand Valley, and as well as Northern Ireland. And you should go check out the website, thefriedegg.com, and go find the guide pages. They'll be easy to find right on the homepage. And you can read about all of these destinations as well. So check out the website. If you haven't been there in a while, we've done a lot of work on that. And there's a ton of stuff to read about golf courses on the website. Tons of photos to peruse through. So check that out. In other big Fried Egg news, we're really excited. We have published our first book. It's a coffee table book. And it's been something that we've talked about doing. Lots of people have asked us to do for years, and really excited about this one. It's going to be volume 1 of books about golf courses that we create. This one, the theme of it is it's really centered. We turned 10 years old, so it's been 10 years since the start of this, which is wild, in December. But the theme of this volume 1 is golf courses that shaped Fried Egg Golf. So it's a lot of golf courses that we visited in the early years, and it's writing about those, photographs from those, and you can pre-order this book at proshop.thefriedegg.com. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be a very beautiful book, and lots of photography and some really good writing in the book. So big thanks to our entire team that has kind of pulled this together. All the writing in there, I think, is predominantly between me, Garrett Morrison, and Matt Ruches. It's all about golf courses. So this is a great gift for the holidays. This is a great book for your coffee table, your office, wherever it may be. I think our idea, we wanted to design something that felt a little bit different than your standard golf book. So I'm really excited about this. I've I've gotten some advance, not a copy. I haven't gotten an official copy yet, but I got the pages. I don't know how these book things work, but I got pages. I got sent just a big pile of pages that were the pages of the book, and the covers yellow. It should be. It's pretty cool. I'm excited about that. So it's at proshop.thefriedegg.com. You can see that there. And let's get to our guests. So joining us on this episode are a couple members of our team that put together these various guides. I've been to all these destinations, so riveting discussion about all of them. We are joined by Brendan Porath, Will Knights, and Abby Liebenthal on this episode to break down these various destinations. All right, let's get to Brendan Porath and let's talk about Northern Ireland. All right, Brendan, welcome on this side of the podcast world. How are you?
It's good to be here. Do I have to talk in more hushed tones and use some fancier terms on this side?
You can just be yourself.
All right. Make more NPR type phrases, turn of phrases. Okay.
I don't think that's this podcast.
No, I don't disagree. Yeah.
This is a fairly lowbrow podcast still.
That's not true.
We are talking about your guide of Northern Ireland. New website feature. It's very exciting.
Right.
We went to Northern Ireland together. We did a whole podcast feed about it. If anybody wants to dive in really deep, it's called Eggsplorations. It's in there. But you wrote about your experience going to Northern Ireland. You obviously went this year again for the Open Championship, so you've got 2 weeks of your life under your belt in Northern Ireland. Obviously, haven't seen everything, but you've seen some stuff. You're more educated than most about the subject in America, not in Northern Ireland. What are your kind of tips other than don't get lost in downtown Portrush?
That was the great amusement of the Open Championship was Joseph referring to a downtown Portrush, and I think the entire country of Northern Ireland seeing this TikTok and mocking him for a week or two on end. I don't understand the TikTok bloodstreams or how it got there, but yes, there is no downtown Portrush. There's just Portrush.
Portrush is a small town, so
it's substantive. It is a town. It's not like one intersection. It's substantive. It's a port. But I don't think you could characterize as mid, downtown, uptown. It's just Portrush. But that became a subject of amusement to the locals. Yeah, I think the first thing, obviously we're excited about these guides on the website. And as you stated, I've been there twice now in 2 years. I don't think we're narcissistic enough or deluded enough to suggest this is the end all, be it all, know it all. But it is we have pretty substantive experience going there for, I don't know, about 20 days of my life, the last 2 years, and leaning on the locals who have lived there their whole lives. We get a flood of recommendations, a flood of do not go there, overrated, that's shite, or whatever you want to call it, from the locals. And that's kind of what we've done to compile the guide. I think, the overarching takeaway is the fact that I've been there twice in about, I don't know, 25 months or so, or no, 13 months, twice in about 13 months suggests that it's much more within reach than I thought, right? And sometimes the idea of going international, the idea of planning international is way more daunting than just actually going and doing it. And once you do it, that's not that bad. Right? It's sort of you got a surgery or something, so like a dentist appointment. You're way more worked up about it than what actually happened. And then getting there is just not that hard, especially as an East Coaster in the United States. It's almost too short on the way over as a red eye. It's there's not a lot of sleeping time. It's five and a half to Dublin.
You're saying this to a man that has a series of red eyes in his near future that are all shorter than that red eye.
Right. I understand. It's just, it is too short if you're really trying to get a lot of sleep, more than a couple hours. But it's so within reach. You leave, and this, I speak as someone who had travel difficulties on this last go around. I still maintain this point of view that it's not that hard, and you're in Northern Ireland, you're in Newcastle within 2 hours of landing in Dublin if you don't choose to stay in Dublin, which I would suggest. If you're going to Dublin, you're flying in and out of Dublin, you append a couple days to your trip to experience Dublin. But it is so, for an East Coaster, New York, DC, Boston, let's be honest, it's probably easier to get to than some remote American resorts.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I always feel when I get over abroad, is that I feel this and I live on the other side of the country, is I feel like that wasn't that bad. Now, for me, the 8-hour time change, communicating with my family that week, that is challenging. Sure. that presents unique challenges. But when I get there, I'm like, this was not that bad. And every time I'm there, I'm kind of think to myself, why don't I do this more often? But then when I get home, it becomes daunting again. And I do think for the East Coast, this is extraordinarily easy. This is, direct flights into Dublin, direct flights into Edinburgh, direct flights into, various, London. These are all very achievable and fairly easy things to do. And if you're looking at I think what's particularly interesting is when you start looking off peak, non-summer travel, very affordable flights.
Totally. That was another thing. Very inexpensive. And I went in July from DC. I booked it maybe 2 months in advance. I think it was like 500, $600 for like not the most basic, whatever, one up, premium or not an economy, like $500, $600. That's hard to get even to like cross country in the US nowadays. And that's in July.
I think one of the things that, and I don't want to speak for you, but one of the things that I was taken aback from our trip to Northern Ireland was, I think people like cement this is a, like, let's be real. Most people listening to this, most people reading these guides are going to go for golf trips. But one of my takeaways from our Northern Ireland trip was this is not strictly a golf trip destination. This can be a trip where I play a couple rounds of golf and also have my family with me.
I would totally agree. I think when we were there, I would shade that is much more applicable to the Causeway Coast area. And writing this guide, I was thinking back a little bit more. I don't know if Newcastle, like RCD, like is the thing, right? It's a cool town. It is its own town. It's not a nothing burger. But I feel like if you're going with your family, like that really applies to the Causeway Coast area of Port Stewart, Portrush, Port Ballantrae.
And
that
that's
is
the very northern part.
Northern side of Northern Ireland, not the northernmost part of the island of Ireland, as Donegal actually goes more north, but that's part of the Republic. Yes, the northernmost part of Northern Ireland is the Causeway Coast. And I think there were several times when we were there, we were like, oh, I kind of wish like we'd see like families and kids kind of bouncing around the beach or in the coffee shop. Like, I could do this. I think my wife could do this. I think my kids could do this. Now, hauling them there is its own challenge, but it was much more than just you're only here to play golf. All you can do is play golf, and why would you do anything else around here? That for sure is the case on the North Coast.
I think I obviously live in a part of the country that has a lot of active hikers, but you could make the case that if you're into a couple other active lifestyle things such as hiking, Newcastle with the more mountains is like a viable stop. And there's stuff to do. Like I think like one of my big regrets was that we didn't go do the Mourne Mountain hike. It was probably because I had just completed a marathon days before and wasn't up for the 700-foot incline.
Yeah.
But
it's called the Mourne Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, which is essentially like a national park right next to Newcastle, RCD.
And then the other thing I would hit on is Portrush, like some other towns in Ireland, very active surf culture. Mm-hmm. So if you are a surfer, which there's I think there's a small subset of like people that love the idea of places I can go surf and golf at the same time. This is a small subset of golfers, but this should be on the list of places where you can actively surf and golf. Along with Lahinch, you could go down to, there's a bunch of other places, all over. But if you could do Portrush, a surf there plus golf, that's about as good of the golf version of that trip as you can get. I know the waves can be a little inconsistent there, but does have an active surf culture.
Yeah, that was hopping too in July when we were there for the Open. Whether it was surfing or just kids, families on the beach, it was a little amusing to see like Americans and tourists over for the Open be like, oh my God, it's like 70 and windy and who knows what the water is, but it felt like 100 to a lot of the people. Like it was just hopping. A lot of surfers, great beach scene there in July.
It's hard. You get centered on these golf trips, and I feel like you don't always do the extracurricular activities.
Sure.
I think that is like something I regret from our trip, and it was March, I regret that I didn't go in the water. Like I didn't go in a swim. We were right next to we were effectively stayed on the water. And I know Matt from our team went in. I did not go in.
We should have.
I regret that.
Yeah.
But there are extracurriculars, a couple of things we did do that I was very happy about was the Causeway Coast. We obviously hit up a lot of different restaurants and things What are your recs outside of golf for Northern Ireland?
I think you've hit on a few of the activities already. I think you have to hit the Mourne Mountains. We did not. You were decrepit and from your marathon. We went over there. We did not do the hike. You have to do that. Have to surf. Have to see the coastal towns of Portrush and Port Stewart. I think like immersing yourself in the actual town. Like there's stuff there. I think like sometimes when you go on these golf trips, you are just you're sort of beholden to the itinerary that is set for you by a resort, and you only eat at a resort, and you only eat at like it's the same burger and it's the same beer, and it's all coming from the same kitchen, and it's all coming from the same till. And here there are actual towns to go immerse yourself in, and I found Port Stewart on return. I think it's just like a really, really charming town. I think it's coffee and food scene. I'd probably put a tick above Port Rush. I don't know if that's going to bother some people. They're more or less the same, right? I mean, I don't think there's any great rivalry. Maybe there is amongst the golf courses, but not amongst the towns that I saw. My favorite meal we had was this place, Amici Ristorante. It was an Italian place. And I was like, you go to the northernmost part of Northern Ireland to get Italian. But it came like super, super recommended from everyone, fancy folks, regulars, locals. And we had that at 10 p.m. on before the Open started. And that was a must do for me in terms of, it's a flexible kind of menu. And it was like right on the water, on the cliffs, next to the old course, Port Stewart. And that was a cool scene. And of course, Lost and Found has become sort of our home away from home, this coffee shop on the other side of Port Stewart. Amici is between Port Rush and Port Stewart. But this Lost and Found coffee shop, which we got to know the owner, Dave Linus, a little bit. We went back multiple times when I was there for the Open. We went there 2 or 3 times on our first trip, I think. And so those were some of like just the little bites of culture where you feel like you are not being shoveled everything that a certain golf resort has to offer.
I think the other thing that the Causeway Coast area has is they have a lot of like smaller golf options.
Yeah.
And we didn't visit these, but I've heard from enough people that I trust that like affordable and like quick rounds of golf are available at Bushfoot, which is right next to the Bushmills Distillery.
I'll say on that, Shackelford, who we would consider a trusted source and friend, played it multiple times when he was over for the Open and would like come in the next day just talking about how charmed he was playing Bushfoot. It's a 9-holer, multiple routings. You can make it 18, but it's 9 holes on the River Bush. And Shaq was like just fired up with some like twilight post-dinner rounds of Bushfoot. But go ahead with
and these are really long days.
Yeah.
And I think like one of the things, I don't know if this is me aging, but like as I plan more golf trips, and I obviously go on a ton of golf trips every year. I really like to build in time for different activities, time to be in the town, but also time to just like go show up at golf courses that aren't necessarily the famous ones. And I think when you're in that area, obviously the ones that you have to hit or try to have to hit are both courses at Portrush, and then Port Stewart, particularly the front 9 is like extraordinary.
Yeah.
And then, I think Castle Rock was really fun, but it might not be in the very like the top of the bucket. I think the Wee course is about as fun of a golf course as you can play, the Bon at Castle Rock.
I was reading back on that. I didn't play that. I was writing, and you and Cameron went out for that. And Cameron's like, bring a dozen golf balls. This is the most penal golf course, but it was absolute blast. It was so fun, that 9-holer.
The last hole there is like a 90-yard par 3. And it's really cool. It's like blind, but like it's lost ball if you miss the green.
But you guys both came off like, God, that was fun. And you played in, I don't know, what, 90
It was
minutes less or
40
an hour?
minutes.
Yeah.
50
It was
minutes.
quick. I was trying to write an article and you were off before that.
I think that's like the thing is like you have Ballyreg, which Tyrrell Hatton was playing like the night before the Open Championship.
Kind of situated up above on the cliffs, like we talked about.
I think it's like 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's like on the ocean.
It's one of these things where the locals are like, that's kind of a shit. Like, but they don't know how good they got it just to have it as a thing, as an option to play for 40 minutes or whatever it is.
The original Port Stewart course, I've always wanted to play. And you've got Bushfoot, you've got the Bond course. Like you have these like small golf options. Yeah. So doing a day where you play a morning round somewhere and then you just leave the afternoon open, you have all these options to go play more golf. You have the option to like hang out in town. You have the option to go get like a nice lunch, a late lunch, and sit somewhere. I think that's like the charm of trips to the UK, and I think like people don't necessarily think about Northern Ireland in that vein, but I think it's absolutely a opportunity to do that.
So one thing I struggle with the guide, or not struggle, I confronted the question of like, if you go to Northern Ireland and you don't play RCD or Royal Portrush or somehow both, do you have to play both if you go there to feel fulfilled or walk out of there considering it a success?
You know, I think that's a good question. I would say that the proximity of them to Dublin is a no, because it's not far away.
I think that's where I landed. Play one. I think if you go and you play neither, you're probably feeling a little unfulfilled, but I think you're gonna, and I struggle with this, like with everything I do, whether it's a golf trip or Disney World, it's like, I'm so anxious while I'm there to do everything. But when I leave, it's like, God, that was a great time. And I think that would be the case if you don't see one of the two pillars. I think that's the case.
I agree. I would agree with that. I think you can do it without seeing it. And I think like one of the things is like you can make this trip really affordable. If you wanted to make an affordable, fun golf trip, Northern Ireland is a place you could do it, where you could do these kind of like more mom and pop golf courses. Do I think it's like the best trip in the world? No, but do you get to go experience links golf and culture and the culture there without without breaking the bank? Yes.
Let's play a little game. So we were there for the Open and we played Royal County Down on our way out of town with a Mourn member, which meant we had to go late on Monday, like 5:00, which was great. We had a day, we needed to get out of Portrush, work our way down and get to Dublin by nighttime. So it worked out. It was like 5 p.m. How much do you think the reputed #1 golf course in the world, Royal County Down, what was, talking about ma and pa and affordable, what do you think it was? I don't even know if
25 pounds.
30 pounds.
Yeah.
30 pounds.
It's the way North Berwick is too.
I was with someone from Ireland who knows the whole scene and was like incredulous even at that price. And so it is affordable. I would, having gone twice now, and I think you can speak to this too. I don't know if it cuts into the cost a little bit. I do think going in a non-tourist time or heaviest tourist time is a good idea, is a good thing to explore. When we got pretty fortunate with weather in March, but we got like real Portrush, real culture, real Newcastle. This was like, it wasn't just a bunch of Americans there. And I'll say like the Open, going to the Harbor Bar was a shit show. It's the Open. I get it. There's thousands of people in town. The Guinness wasn't very good. It wasn't as good. There's a bunch of drunk idiots.
Bomber wasn't around.
Yeah, Bomber wasn't around. Like, I'm not suggesting it's like that every July when there's not an Open, but there's not the American tourist element in March. I don't know if you found that to be sort of more of an advantage, disadvantage.
I've been working on another guide on Fife, the St. Andrews area, And obviously the first time I went there was the Open Championship, and then this spring I went. And something that I think about, like, that I would recommend to anybody that's going to St. Andrews, and this will be probably a future podcast, but I would really recommend going when school's in session, because there's like an added energy to that town when the university is in. And it's just, I don't, there's something about like college towns that I find like really like
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yep.
And versus like when I went peak in the summer, it's just peak tourism. And we went in April this year, and April's the driest month in Scotland, but also it's like not when it's just jammed with visitors. It's a little bit slower, and I think that really lends itself. It's easier to get into the restaurants you want. It's you interact with more locals, which to me is what I want. In particular, when we went to Northern Ireland, all the courses hadn't opened their visitor tea times yet. So we were literally, for better or worse, we were picked out like sore thumbs by locals.
Oh,
They
yeah.
knew what they were everybody was asking us what the hell we were doing there,
Right.
because they knew that this was not a tourist time. But
Right.
it was, there's, I think like the generation, the travel generation right now, like the travel trends, people are seeking out authenticity and authentic experiences and genuine experiences, unique experiences. And I think when you go to these places when they are a little less busy, it lends itself to a little bit more of culture. And I think like one of the like super underrated things is like when you have a little bit less daylight, you're less inclined to play as much golf, and that also lends itself to you feeling better and also experiencing more things outside the golf.
More discovery. Yeah, we did that. I mean, we played golf till 10 p.m. at Port Stewart, and it's like, all right, now we got to find dinner, right? And we were lucky to find our way to Amici. I will say, like, Port Stewart, you probably need to add that front nine. It's for the American. Lamagna was like, oh, this is the greatest golf course I've ever seen in my world, ever seen in the world. He's walking off like, I think this is better than RCD. Like, it makes an impression from the dunes. It's worth going just for the impression it will leave you with. But yeah, we had that, and I don't know. I think going to Northern Ireland, I have Irish ancestry. I was keenly aware of the troubles, keenly aware of like what that meant. Like, is this place like in turmoil? Is it dangerous? All these things, and that was sort of its identity, right? For a long time, Joseph had no sense of that, had no idea that like much of that background. I think some of us when we went on our first trip weren't aware of that background, and I think you go now and there's the matter of fact details that you're in a different country, right? There's the currency, there's the license plates, there's all that stuff. But, there's no sense of turmoil or anything like that. You see it right away. There's different flags flying all over the place. There may be, an undercurrent of tension. I think like, they know who's who and what's what if you're a local. But I didn't really sense it's at this point, it's part of their history, of recent history, but it wasn't anything that was imposing at all on the trip, and it feels much more open to that kind of tourist trip.
I would recommend anybody that goes. This was kind of on my list. Anybody that goes to Northern Ireland, read, especially Americans, read Patrick Radden Keefe's book "Say Nothing." It's honestly like one of the best books I've ever read. And it's all about the troubles. He does like an incredible job of kind of weaving these different kind of stories together. But I was reading it while we were there, and it was I was having trouble sleeping because I couldn't put the book down. And I think like just in general, like when we talk about non-golf things, like one of the things that I would like to go back there and do a lot of like the black taxi tours and explore that kind of history more. It was obviously like a very difficult time for that area, but in terms of history, it's a fascinating kind of moment. And in a troubling way, obviously, with what was going on. But the history of that is, just something that after reading that book, I would like to, in talking to locals, I think like that's another part of the local aspect of being there and talking, just interfacing with people from the area, is you just learn so much about that time, and it's definitely part of their history, and it's one of the big reasons why Portrush wasn't in the Rota for a number of years, and why Northern Ireland, it was not considered a golf destination until the recent couple of last decades. Is this is a golf destination that I think is emerging, and becoming more and more popularized as more time passes from the Troubles. It's impossible to talk about the area without understanding that history. And I think Belfast, like, we stayed in Belfast our last night. I was coming down with some sort of plague. But we still went out. The plague hit really when I was on the plane home, which was a disaster in itself.
Yeah.
But I think Belfast was a place that I would have liked to spend some time too, and that's another option of where you center your some of your stay is Belfast, where there's great restaurants, an emerging nightlife scene, and some really nice hotels.
Yeah. Belfast, we visited Hollywood, which I thought was cool experience to see Rory. And Rory's obviously now even more of a prominent figure, having won the Grand Slam. I thought that was cool. I don't know if anybody, maybe if you arrange it in advance, I don't know if you can just be like pulling up like it's a museum. It's still a golf club. But that was cool on the outskirts.
I feel like you probably could, to be completely honest.
Maybe. Belfast,
I feel like you could go have lunch there.
You were getting sick. Belfast, we stopped on our way in. The impression I get is that it's still trying to figure its way up, and it's a little drab. And you hear that from people down south who make it seem like you're going to Siberia, and it's not. There's good food, there's gas stations, there's life, there's cell service, all these things. But people down south did recommend Derry. Like people, like fancy folks, we got to know a little bit, who might have some discerning tastes, said Derry is a cool time and a cool weekend up north. And we were about another 30, 45 minutes past Castle Rock. And Will Knights went there later at a subsequent time and has Derry journals and guides up for that I'll include in our guide, which is mostly food, drink, golf in Portrush, Port Stewart, and Newcastle. But Derry came highly recommended from people down south with some discerning taste as a cool place to go with a good nightlife. And I think Belfast, if you are interested in this sort of massive historical struggle and recent history, which is it's not enjoyable, it's tragic, but it's an interesting history to study nonetheless. Belfast is worth kind of stopping on your way through, or for multiple nights, going from Portrush to Newcastle or vice versa. So
all right. Well, you got anything else?
I'd say
go read. It's hard this society today. Not a lot of people read, but that's probably the best place to convey a lot of information.
It's bite-sized nuggets too. I'm not going to hit you with a wall of text. You can read quickly if you want.
Did you put any stayaways in there?
The pizza place in Newcastle I recognize that everybody told us to go there. Like the locals who know the scene told us to go there. Maybe we're just the American outliers, but I mentioned that. It was just crowded, maybe.
I feel like sometimes telling people not to go places is more powerful than telling people where to go.
Yeah, that is true. Just want to be cognizant of maybe the mod pa that might be on the other end of such a thing. But yes,
like Ziggy's and St. Andrews, that's a stay away from me. I tell everybody that goes, do not go to Ziggy's.
All right. The ribs. What did you think? Did you find anything that was super overrated or not that great? I mean, look, you're playing golf and looking to fill up. There's stuff that I rank higher than others, right? And the Ramore has such a stranglehold on Portrush. They like own all the restaurant group, like Harbor Bar, Harbor Bistro, the Italian pizza place, the Ramore Wine Bar. They own like the entire thing. And I'm just fresh off the Open where it was like that was the only place you get any tables. So I think that could kind of constrict variety in a way. I enjoyed going to the Harbor Bistro, which is the food place attached to the Harbor Bar, but I thought it felt like sort of a monopoly on the whole town.
Earnest recommendation: gas station sausage rolls on the way into Portrush. There's a gas station from town.
Went there a couple times. Yeah,
pretty good. Earnest opinion. Pretty good. It's kind of like Texas, where the gas station food isn't vile. Texas, you stop at a gas station, get some barbecue. Yep. That's fine. And in Northern Ireland, stopping at that in Portrush, stopping at that gas station on the way into Portrush and getting a sausage roll. Big line of people. Good spot.
Yeah, that was a good spot. We went in there multiple times after working at Portrush late. We stopped there. The only other thing is like staying. Feels like Airbnb is the way to go on both sides. Portrush, Newcastle, Port Stewart, or a vacation rental service.
Newcastle, obviously, you got the Marine and Lawn, the Sleeve Donner, which comes with some access to RCD. But obviously, you're paying through the nose on that.
It's a taste of American private equity in Northern Ireland. It's what it is, and that's fine. It's still the authentic build. Like it's the same spot where it's always been. We had a luncheon there on the way to the golf course last time through. It's cool. Sat in some high back leather chairs and had a good lunch. But
you brought up American private equity. I will say one of the charming aspects of Northern Ireland, because of its recent, history, is that it's had less time to have American private equity ruin places. There is a raw authenticity to the area because of it was not a place that people wanted to dump money for a number of years.
Yeah. I mean, they're building, and Galgorm is building the first new course in some decades, maybe 50, a long time, probably another several miles west of Castle Rock, which is like this big development. So they're seeing the demand for tee times just I think that element is coming, is what I'm saying.
It is.
So we'll see.
Surely,
Sleeve Donner.
If America is great at one thing, it's putting money into far-flung destinations and ruining them. So,
but it's awesome. It's a fabulous spot right now. I think it will maintain some of its authenticity and independence. Highly recommend a trip there. We think it's within reach. We of course go into all the golf courses too, whether it's what we saw walking the Valley course to Dunluce, RCD. We have those in depth.
Real quick, one other thing that we haven't hit on is Ardglass.
Yes,
not my favorite golf course in my opinion. Some stunning views.
Yeah.
So it's like pretty crazy. Not really. I would not characterize this as a well-designed golf course, but it's visually stunning. And the other thing I would hit on is that the town is a really cool place to stop and have a Guinness in.
Yeah, the Arms Bar.
Owned by Shane Lowry's former caddy, now TikTok's favorite influencer Min Woo Lee's caddy, Bo Martin.
He's got a stake in it. Yeah,
you might see him and all of his kids in there if you're there at the right time and just rummaging around.
I think Ardglass is worth the whatever it was 35-40 minute detour from Newcastle. I think if you're up there, hit the town, get over there. You want to play, it's stunning. It's different kind of cliffs holes, seaside holes, inland holes, elevation change. A little different taste for sure.
Yeah.
So
could be, if you get it on a windy day, it'd be about as hard as it could get.
Awful.
That day we remember teeing off
so
the
bad.
first hole there. It's amazing. You tee off from the back of a castle over a bay. And the day we were playing, it's just blown like 35 miles an hour, and it was about 40 degrees out.
It's one of those, couldn't hear the person next to you unless they were yelling.
Didn't want to get out of the van that day. It was like,
that's true.
I had some flashbacks to some junior golf rounds in like early spring or late fall, where you're just like, you're sitting in your car, it's early in the morning, and you just don't want to get out because you know how cold and windy it is.
Yeah, but we did it. It was good. We got through those first few holes when it was at its worst. So good experience. Yeah, it's a great trip. Great trip for obviously for many Americans, and you have those two pillars that draw people there. But I think there's just a lot more once you dig in. So hopefully the guide hits on some of that.
All right, thanks for joining. Thanks for talking Northern Ireland. People can read your profile on the website. All right, let's talk about our partner, Mercedes-Benz. For more than 30 years, Mercedes-Benz has supported golf around the world, from partnering with the most prestigious major championships, tournaments, and players in the professional game. When it comes to excellence, Mercedes-Benz SUVs deliver an elevated experience behind the wheel. With 4MATIC's impressive all-wheel precision, awe-inspiring MBUX technology, and state-of-the-art acoustics that immerse you in every moment, performance means more in a Mercedes-Benz. Discover the Mercedes-Benz SUV that's right for you at MBUSA.com. All right, let's get to Will Knights, who's going to talk to us about the Sand Valley area. I guess it's not really an area. Who's going to talk to us about Sand Valley? William, welcome on. You are coming to us from the state of Wisconsin to talk about, I think, what's become Wisconsin's premier golf destination, Sand Valley. You wrote up our Sand Valley guide. I've got a soft spot, a little story time for Sand Valley. When I started this business, it was late 2015. And then in 2016, I started to go to golf courses to write about golf courses. And one of my, probably like really my first real golf trip with Fried Egg, the first like golf course I wrote about was Sweetens Cove, but I visited there while I was at a wedding. You know, it wasn't like a real golf trip. The first real golf trip that I went on was with a couple buddies, under the guise of Fried Egg, was to Wisconsin. And we played University Ridge in the morning. And then we drove to Sand Valley to do the preview loop, which at the time I think was 11 holes of golf, maybe 12 holes of golf. And they were operating out of a trailer. And so this was 2016, summer of 2016. Now we fast forward 9 years, and the resort, I just like every time I go back, I'm amazed at how much growth, how much bigger it is. And it's just a great memory for me, when our business was in the nascent days and their business was in the nascent days. And it's just I always reminisce, and it's been amazing to watch that resort. And obviously you're a Midwesterner at heart, even though you live on the East Coast now. Like, it's been just amazing to watch that kind of resort grow and populate and become super popular with all the masses in the Midwest.
It's funny you say that, because I think Sand Valley was actually the first trip that I ever took under the guise of Fried Egg as well. It was like very early when I started writing for you, like on the side of my day job. And I reached out to you. I was like, hey, is this Sand Valley place like worth checking out? This was like before I knew anything about golf courses or golf travel. And you helped me get me set up with a buddy. And so I think we went up there the week that Mammoth Dunes opened. And so it's been very similar to you. I have a very early memory of what that resort looked like. And now when my first trip, the main lodge was built and like Craig's Porch was established. But yeah, it's been kind of crazy that in the last 8 years, it's gone from a very immature operation to one of the most bustling places in the Midwest. And the fact that just about everyone from around the country now wants to come to Wisconsin to see this resort is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's the last place you would expect these massive sand dunes, and obviously Craig Haltom, that's why it's called Craig's Porch, had found this land and then got the Kaisers involved with it, and it's Michael and Chris Kaiser's operation, and they've done an incredible job of growing it and delivering a world-class golf experience, which all stems from their belief of kind of presenting golf as in its truest form, and using extraordinary sand dunes and incredible playing conditions. I think, like, when I think about Sand Valley, they've got some really great golf courses, but all the golf courses are amplified by the incredible turf operation they have, where they have some of the best playing conditions in the world, and particularly in America. The turf is just so firm and fast that it amplifies all the architecture that they have there, and that's kind of one of the things that always sticks with me is just the turf there, and it's a world-class surface.
The sound that the ball makes when it hits, it's really every golf course out there, but especially like the newer ones, when you play Lido or Sedge Valley or even Sandbox, because you're so close on some of those shots, the trampoline nature of that thud is, I mean, there is not another place in the Midwest that I've heard that. And every time you return, like you play every golf course, it is as firm and fast as it was the last time you were there. I think what a lot of people, especially people who are like nervous looking at the weather, like if there's rain in the forecast, if it rains overnight, like you're not going to know that when you show up the next morning. It just absorbs it so well, and they have their maintenance practices, to your point, are incredible. Every single golf course is at its highest level all year round when they're open. And yeah, like getting to play those firm conditions and experience that sound is something that you can't find many places around the Midwest.
So the golf there has expanded. The Sand Valley course is the original course. I think this will be a little bit different than the previous two conversations on this podcast, where you have like a surrounding town and stuff. It's pretty remote. You can venture out. Yeah, if you're a brave soul, I would recommend trying to find a supper club. That's kind of a Wisconsin tradition. If you wanted to go off site for a meal, find a local supper club. That's a time honored Wisconsin tradition that is worthwhile pursuit. But I would say that most people are just going to stay on site, and there are dining options there. Let's just talk about the golf real quick. You have the Sand Valley course, which is the original Core Crenshaw course. That was the first golf course that was built there. Then they built David McClay Kidd's Mammoth Dunes. This is the most popular golf course on the property. It enthralls people with low scoring opportunities, and it's a big course. There's dramatic dunes. It's a very well routed golf course because it gets through some really dramatic pieces of the property. And I would say it probably is the course that takes the longest to play, just because you traverse so much property on it. The third course that was built was Sandbox, a 17-hole par 3 course by Core and Crenshaw. Then they have the Lido and Sedge Valley. Those are two of the newer options. The Lido is a private club. You can get access to it during the week in certain tee time blocks, but the access is limited. So you're not guaranteed it if you're staying at the resort, but you have to stay at the resort in order to get access, or you need access through a member. And then the final in Sedge Valley is obviously a Tom Doak. It's a sub 70 par. We've had so many discussions with Tom about this golf course on this podcast, but it's a really fun golf course, really neat piece of land. And then the newest design is the Commons, which was a collaboration with Michael Kaiser and Jim Craig, a longtime Core and Crenshaw associate. It is another kind of, the idea of fast golf round would come to mind. And I think what's neat about these golf courses is they have a lot of like quicker afternoon options or morning options. One of the things I like is they have 3 really big golf courses in Lido, Sand Valley, and Mammoth Dunes, but they also have 3 golf courses that can be played in much shorter periods of time in Sedge. If you're in the morning, particular on Sedge, in the afternoon, it kind of takes the same amount of time. Commons and the Sandbox. You run all of our events, and we have, had an annual event every year at Sand Valley. How have you been going about like laying out itineraries there?
So I think with any golf resort, there's kind of a learning experience that goes with these. And as they add new courses, like my preference for how we set those up has changed, and it will change even further with the addition of the Commons starting. I think they're going to allow some preview play this fall and then really get going in 2026. But the idea that I am starting to tell people and what I laid out in the guide is, as you mentioned, like the 3 big courses, like if you want to take on 2 of those in one day, like have at it. That is your prerogative. You're welcome to do that, but you're going to be like extremely tired. So if you do Mammoth Dunes, I would say you can definitely do that and paired with another golf course, but just know that this is your big day of golf.
An important note, versus like Bandon. Bandon's never getting above 70 degrees. Scotland, similar, like the temperate climate. One of the things to be prepared for is this Midwest summer can be very hot and humid, and it's taxing. As you played numerous USAM 36-hole qualifiers in your childhood, and those days can be really taxing, and 36 holes at Sand Valley can be taxing if you play both the big courses.
Definitely. And like, it's not impossible by any means, but I think what I would tell people is if you're going to play two of Mammoth, Sand Valley, and Lido in the same day, just understand what you're getting into. And you kind of have to plan it around Lido if you're playing that round. But what I would say is if you're playing Mammoth and Sand Valley the same day, I would do Mammoth in the afternoon when you're like on the more tired side, because you have that more forgiving off the tee space. And it's like, you're probably still going to be able to score okay. Although we did have someone at our event this year, he shot 65 in the afternoon on Sand Valley after playing Mammoth in the morning. So he shot 8 shots better on Sand Valley, but it was his career low round. So in general, when I'm scheduling a trip to Sand Valley, I think I'm trying to avoid doing two of those 3 on the same day if possible. But at the same time, you kind of have to work around what Lido tee times you have. I think moving forward with the 3 kind of different options you have with Sedge Valley, the Commons, and Sandbox, you kind of have the option to do like an alternative day where you play all 3 of those in once. And you wouldn't ever be tired at the end of that. It would be 3 like very distinct, unique kinds of golf. And I think it would be a super fun day, like something that you can't really experience many places in America. So that's something to consider. But I think in general, if you're pairing a Mammoth with a Sedge or a Mammoth with a Sandbox, you're going to have 2 or 3 of those days and you're going to get out of there like feeling pretty good. At Bandon, it's such a remote destination that you kind of know that your legs are going to be tired. You're playing 36 every day. There's not really an easy walk out there. Sheep Ranch is a little bit easier than the others.
A little sportier. But it could be the elements can wear you out there because you're just like, can be just exposed.
I think the only element that you're going to get, you kind of mentioned the humidity in Wisconsin, like can get you. And if you're like playing Lido or Mammoth, really, like if you're in the sand all day and you're trudging through that, like, yeah, your legs are going to get a little tired. But I think those are the only things that I would really consider when trying to pair 36 holes out there.
I think a lot of people go up there and they have time for a second golf course. This is a common question with Bandon trips too. What's the golf course that you play if you were up there, and we'll take Lido out of this because it's unlikely you're going to play Lido twice. I would say if you have the chance to play Lido twice, that's going to be the one that you're going to learn. It's going to be the most revealing if you get to play it a second time. But if we take Lido out of it, which of those golf courses would you play a second time?
I think right now, I would lean Sedge because it is so different when you're on opposite sides of the fairway. Not that Mammoth and Sand Valley aren't, but I think the architecture at Sedge does reveal itself in multiple rounds of golf. And you can play different tees out at Sedge. It's not a very long golf course, but if you can move forward, move back. There's kind of some hidden tee boxes out there if you want to really start poking around. So I think that's a golf course where, especially if the wind changes in the afternoon, you could really get some different stuff out there. I don't know that I would play it. I guess we're probably not talking about playing it twice in the same day, but if the pins change out there and you play it back to back days, you're going to see a completely different golf course. And then if that's not your cup of tea and you want to play one of the other two, like I wouldn't blame you by any means. I think it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you want to like just go make a bunch of birdies and have fun with your buddies, then like go play Mammoth Dunes twice. But if you're looking for more of a championship test, I would definitely do more of a look at Sand Valley or Sedge for that second round.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Sedge has, and why I'd probably pick it, I do really like the Sand Valley course a lot. And I think it kind of gets slept on a little because it's just the first one, and Mammoth is such a commercial hit. I think one of the things I appreciate about about Sedge is I think like the strategy sense, like people love to and I would say that I romanticize strategy. So I'm saying myself when I say this and others. Strategy, you have that like lines of charm, like right and left side. I think like where Sedge is like pretty fascinating is there's a lot of distance strategy in sense of, do I push up near the green? Because there are a lot of shorter par fours. Do I push up near the green or do I lay back? And I think that's what makes it, like you can play a hole and you can push it up near the green and you can be like, oh, I do not want to be here. And then you want to play it a second time because it's like, I'm going to hit 3-iron off this tee. And that golf course has a lot of variability in how you can play the holes from a strategic sense of club selection off the tee. I'm not talking about lines, but club selection off the tee. So I think that is that's probably the course that I would play a second time if I it's probably the course like, I think there are like these, like there's a lot of differences in golf courses. And I've said this a lot on this podcast. Like there are like dramatic, like golf courses that you if you had one round left in your life, you go play this golf course. But then there are also like the, golf courses that you'd like to play over and over and again. And I think Sedge falls in that bucket. Like it would be a delightful place to play every day of your life.
I think the other fun part about Sedge, especially, you don't have to be a good player, but like, because you look at the scorecard and you see 5,800 or 5,700 and par 68, like you think you're going to put a low number up there. And the most of the time that's not going to happen. It's going to sneak up and bite you. And you're going to get towards the end of the round and you're going to write down whatever your score is, or you're going to play a match and you're going to say like, I really just want to give that another try. There's shots out there that I can do better this time, or I would love to play a different match against somebody from they pulled off the shot. I want to try to pull that off. Now, there's also like the walk element to it. I think they did a really good job with the environment when you're out at Sedge Valley, just walking through like the section of 4, 5, 6, 7 is so compact and tight, and it's just a really neat kind of hillside. And then you get out into the expanse of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And each of those different sections is such a unique experience and kind of feels very different than the rest of the resort. And it is a really cool place to go back to multiple times.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Let's talk a little bit about food, dining options there. They have obviously the Mammoth Bar. They have Aldo's, which is like a kind of their high-end restaurant. They have the new Gallery, which is it's like an Italian restaurant. It's hopping. It's in the tennis center. And then they have Craig's Porch, which is up at the top. That's right at the first tee of the original Sand Valley course. What are your favorite places to eat and drink there?
I think we also got Bill's Barbecue over by the Sandbox, so they've done a really good job. I think
I haven't ever had Bill's Barbecue. This is one. This might be the one place I haven't eaten there.
There you go. So yeah,
Lido has just sandwiches. It's very simple. If you're over there, you can get just a sandwich. It's good though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they got a little bar. I think for what I put in the guide was my recommendations for breakfast and lunch are to kind of save your pennies and go to Craig's Porch or have breakfast sandwiches at the golf courses, because you can go up to Craig's Porch and get tacos for $1, or you can be on Sedge Valley. And it's kind of an inopportune time, but their halfway house is right by 12T, and they have these hand pies. I think they're called salsitas. I might be butchering that, but they're effectively like a really large empanada. They're also $1. You can get breakfast sandwiches at Craig's Porch for $3. So if you want to kind of,
I think one of the best things to do when you're there, and this is someone that I think like one summer I might have been up there like 8 or 9 times. One of the best things you can do early in the morning is just wake up, walk up to Craig's Porch, sit down and enjoy breakfast sandwich while the sun's coming up.
It's so peaceful up there, and you can kind of just watch people either go off one and just like go down that hill. And it's such a really nice view of just like golfers walking out into the expanse. It's really neat. And other food and beverage notes would be also at Craig's Porch, like ice cream sandwiches up there. You can kind of get carried away pretty easily. And then at Bill's Barbecue, it's a really cool spot because you're overlooking the 9th hole on Sandbox, which is basically the putting hole. And there's so much ground action it's basically dinner and a show over there. They have this massive walking taco, which they put in like a Fritos bag. It's not like the walking taco you had at Little League. It's
I've
like
had the
3
walking
times the
taco.
size. So it's terrific. So really good spot. And then I think the Aldos and the gallery are interesting because they are like, the gallery seems like super imposing because it's this big tennis building, but then you go in there and they have like family style pastas and pizzas, and it's really inviting and just this big kind of food hall. And they do a really good job with the drinks that are offered in there. And if you're looking at the wine lists, they have different wine lists between the restaurants. So the one at the gallery is like very focused on Italian wines because they're pairing it with pastas and pizzas. And then you go over to Aldo's and it's kind of more paired with the meats and poultry that they got over there. So they really did like a job of kind of setting you up for each individual experience. And then the bars at Mammoth Bar is great, just to have some cheese curds and spotted cows at the end of the night.
Cheese curds are a wreck, Do you have any stayaways? Yeah. Do you have any stayaways? Is there something that that just doesn't do it for you?
Well, it might just be like my stomach kind of thing, but in the Mammoth Bar, they offer a buffalo cheese curd, and that's just like super not for me. So it's, I'm sure
I like
it's
the
great.
Buffalo cheese curd.
No, it's just, they taste amazing, but then if you're trying to have that on a hot day and then go out and play golf, it's just like, it's Wisconsin in general. Like you just got to get used to the cheese kind of thing. But the buffalo in particular are delicious. Just kind of make sure you're prepared and ready for it.
I will say, I think the Sandbox twilight round, late night, it's an incredible scene out there. It just ain't. It's not for me anymore. It's gotten too slow.
It is so packed now. Yeah, they got like 6 and 8s galore. Yeah,
it just has gotten. And for me, at that point, I'm just like, I'm tired from the day, and one thing I'm not interested in is really slow golf. I'd rather just be like chilling at that point, and I'd rather, like, for the amount of time I'm going to invest, I'd rather go. I don't know if they still do it. I'd rather go play the 6-hole Sand Valley Loop than like play an insanely slow round at the Sandbox. That would be. I'm just gonna. This is my personal opinion. I also think though, if you're playing an 8-some and it's like all your boys and you're like, that can be an amazing experience too. So I get it, For me personally, it's not my jam. I'd rather just like hang out and talk, or go play like 6 holes at the Sand Valley, because they have a nice little 6-hole looper. They at least used to. That's like incredible. Like, and there's nobody out there, and I can hit all the shots. So anyways, that's me. That's my stay away. A couple other things that I would recommend as someone who's spent like an exorbitant amount of time there. I would recommend, if you have free time, if say you're staying off site and you have like one of the weird tee times that's a little bit later, which a lot of people do, and it's not like, I would say there's a lot of things you can do there that make it worthwhile to do that. A couple of things I've done that I would recommend: swimming. They have some lakes. Go swimming. It's honestly delightful. Another thing, the trails are pretty cool. As someone who's like hoofed it out to drone there so many times in my life, I've taken a lot of those trails. They're pretty cool, and they do these bikes on trails. So like, recommendation, like if it's full, I know there's like a lot of angst about like it fills up, it's a lottery system. I don't think it's the end of the world if you stay off site and you book these non-peak tee times, because there is stuff to do. Grass court tennis, awesome. This is not like, there is a world if you did a house rental where this is not a crazy thing to do with your family. It's not crazy. Like, it's remote. Like, you could tone down your golf, and there are activities. The biking, the swimming, the tennis are all pretty awesome. And I think that's one of the things that's unique about Sand Valley in comparison to Bandon, is that like there is some family activities that is going to make it, like, I think probably in 10 years, a pretty interesting family destination. And the lakes are like fun to go in.
Yeah, I think they just kind of built the new one over by the Commons, and like the lake also over by Sand Valley. They're amazing freshwater lakes, and definitely would recommend that. The biking is fat tire biking, which I've never done it. Have you done it at Sand Valley?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks super fun. So it's a very different kind of experience. Yeah.
That's where, like, if you don't have like, it's not the end of the world if you're only playing one round of golf there, because there is other stuff to do. They have a small gym too if you're into that, if you want to do that. But like, there's such good outdoor activities to do out there. The one other thing I'd love to hit on is, so getting there, people fly into O'Hare, people fly into Milwaukee, people fly into Madison. A couple of recommendations on the way up. Eagle Springs, a 9-hole mom and pa golf course. If you're coming from O'Hare, it's worth the stop on the way up. It's awesome. It's super memorable. You'll never forget the first 2 holes. Lawsonia obviously is at the top of my list of places to go in Wisconsin. And it's not like necessarily out of the way. It's not super convenient. And then I would just say, if you're flying and you can fly direct into Madison, that's the ideal way to get up there. And so I would, that would be the ideal. I think most people will fly into O'Hare. Minneapolis is another option to fly into, but those would be my recs for getting up there. Will, thank you for writing this guide up. People can read it on the website. Any parting thoughts before you get out of here on Sand Valley?
No, I think you hit it on the head. I think should mention that I am currently in Green Lake, Wisconsin, next to Lawsonia, and we talked to people on the putting green that are driving to Sand Valley this afternoon. So they stopped at Lawsonia on the way. So I would just echo that. I think stopping at Eagle Springs and or Lawsonia, or if you want to tag on, like, you could do a day in Madison. It's a wonderful college town. You could pair it with a Wisconsin football game
on the lake.
Yeah. Oh, it's a terrific town. You could even like get over to the New Glarus Brewery, which is out that way. I mean, there's a lot to do in Wisconsin if you really want to make a big trip out of it. And then you can always pair it with Erin Hills or Whistling if you want to kind of get out of the way. But I think doing non-golf activities mixed in just makes this trip even that much better.
You hit on Madison. I used to work. I had one of my jobs before this. I was like intertwined in restaurant and hospitality scenes, and one of the places I would go occasionally for work trips is Madison. Wonderful place to spend a night.
In the
You know,
summer, especially, like they have those like concrete stairs where you can just grab a beer. It is unbelievable over there.
yeah, I would. Great bars, great food. Also like good concerts come there.
Hmm.
Like don't sleep on like planning the stop on the way up. If you and like say you can't get accommodations a certain way, don't sleep on like look at the show list if you're into music, and because Madison gets like legit bands that come through there. So yeah, and if it's the fall, obviously you get the school in session, and there's even more stuff going on.
That's right. You could watch the Badgers beat up on the Illini.
Oh, get out of here! We're a dominant force, and the Badgers aren't beating up on the Illini anymore. Those days are gone. We got Bert, you know.
We got Burt in town.
Yeah, we got their former coach. Uh, you know, the stories of Bert and Madison are amusing if you find the right people. But yeah, the days of Wisconsin beating up on Illinois might be bygone.
That's okay. We there's still it's still worth a stop in Madison, and hell, if you could even just drop the kids off at Wisconsin Dells if you really want to, and then go on a golf trip. So if the water park scene is what they're after, then there's
That's
another
right.
option for you.
That's right, the Dells. All right, thanks, Will. We'll talk soon, and thanks for all your work with the events and making those run smoothly and showing everybody an awesome time.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about our partner, Viore. I gotta say, personal testimony right here. I'm about to be on a heavy red eye kick, and I took my first red eye of this run the other day, and I wore the Viore Dream Nick jogger. I'm a jogger guy. I saw there was a lot of controversy about the European Ryder Cup players that wore jeans on a transatlantic flight. I think that's okay. If you got comfy jeans, it's okay. But let me tell you, you are missing out if you're not wearing their Dream Knit jogger. This red eye, like I've tried a lot of joggers in my day. This is the best jogger I've had. It is so comfortable. It is incredible. I was so delightful. It made a red eye in coach pretty, you know, I was okay, and mostly because of my joggers. So check out the DreamKnit jogger. They also have just tons of athleisure wear. Viore draws inspiration from the coastal California lifestyle, and they make products that stand the test of time, and they hope to inspire others to live vibrant and healthy lives. On top of the jogger, the core short's a great short to work out in, great short to hang out in. They have just a ton of stuff. And just a recommendation, I had this happen. I got a big package from Viore. My wife said, "Where's mine?" If you're going to order Viore, order something for the partner. That'll go a long way. If you're interested in Viore, it's VUORI.com/egg. And you get 20% off your first purchase. So go to Viore.com/egg and you'll get 20% off your first purchase. As I mentioned, they've got awesome athleisure wear. This is stuff that you just want to just lounge in. But it also is nice. You can go do stuff in these clothes also. Extremely comfortable. The Dream Knit jogger was a revelation on my last red eye. Can't wait to wear them again. But check out Viore.com and let's get back to the pod. All right, let's get to Abby Liebenthal, who's going to talk to us about Pinehurst, the Pinehurst area. I think the expression is it's always a lovely day in Pinehurst. I'm not sure. It could be wrong, but I'm excited to bring in our resident expert, our head of marketing, Abby Liebenthal, who happens to live in the Pinehurst area. So this is a great honor to talk about somebody's hometown. I guess, do you call it your hometown when you live there, but you're not from there? These are all questions that we can figure out. Abby, welcome on the Friday Golf Podcast for the first time.
Thank you. First time, long time fan. And I think Pashley would be upset with you saying it's a lovely day in Pinehurst. It's a beautiful day in Pinehurst.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful day. Do you have any clarification on the hometown versus where you live?
I don't tell people that my hometown is Pinehurst. I tell them it's like where I reside now.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you went off pro golfers, they, the tournaments list hometowns, and it's generally where they live now. So
a lot of Sea Island.
A lot of Jupiter,
yeah.
Scottsdale. There's not a lot of diversity in the hometown on the PGA Tour. That's why Leishman always stuck out with Virginia Beach. There was always a nice little nugget in there. Or Matt McCarty's a Chicago guy. He lives in Chicago.
That's good. We need some more diversity.
Let's talk about Pinehurst. You put together a guide here on Pinehurst. I think everybody knows about Pinehurst, so I don't think we need to break ground on in terms of Pinehurst. I think one of the unique things with this destination versus abroad destinations, obviously American destinations, you get in the Sand Valleys, the Pinehurst, the Bandon. The access, the way I understand it, the access to Pinehurst is really controlled by staying there. Correct?
Yes.
How can you play if you don't stay at the resort?
You can call, I believe, a select number of days in advance for each of the courses. They kind of tier their golf courses 2, 4, 8, 10, and then everything else. And I even think the Cradle you can call 24 hours in advance to book a tee time. But otherwise, they are really pushing for people to actually stay at the resort to secure those tee times. And if you're making a trip, you kind of want to know you're going to be able to play those courses. So that's kind of the biggest difference, I would say, within the last 5 years of visiting the area.
Yeah, I think that's, and it's different from Sand Valley. You can get on in the afternoon, even if you're staying offsite. Bandon, similarly, you can stay offsite and get on the tee sheet still. But here, if you want to play those courses, I guess my only recommendation is if you're going for a significant period of time, and maybe leave it an afternoon free and try and get out then, and you can play one of them. In terms of the Pinehurst golf courses, we'll just touch on them quickly. You recommended a few in your guide. You have number 1, number 3. I mean, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 8, number 10.
Yes.
Number 2, obviously, championship course. Number 4 is the golf course that Gil Hanse renovated. Number 10 is the brand new Tom Doak course. 2 courses that haven't really been covered much by this podcast, or I would say in the golf architecture community, are number 3 and number 8. Number 3 is one that I haven't played that I would really like to play. Tell us a little bit about number 3.
Oh, yeah. So 3 is shorter. I think it maxes out at maybe 5,600 yards. I'd have to double check, but the greens are really small and they're really challenging. They're incredibly undulating. Last summer I was practicing a lot more to try and play in a mid-am qualifier. And so somebody recommended to me, go over to 3 and play as much of it as you can, because your approach game is going to get a lot better. So it's a really fun course, and it is kind of a nice equalizer if you're playing with, maybe you have some women in your group, maybe you have some guys in your group that are really long hitters. It kind of balances it out, because everybody's kind of smushed together on the tee boxes. And it just makes for a really fun round. So I really like 3. You can just get around it quick too.
I think people go nuts on golf trips. They play a lot of golf.
Yeah.
And I think what happens oftentimes is that they get fatigued from playing so much golf,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of can ruin some of the later days in your golf trip. To me, that golf course seems like an ideal 36 hole day golf course to put in there in the afternoon after playing one of the big golf courses.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I really like 8. I used to not like 8. It's a bigger walk. And a lot of it was tree lined, especially on the back 9, the final stretch of like 15 to 18. I didn't love it, but they redid the greens a few years ago and took down a bunch of trees. And it's just like, it's a much more fun finish. You can look around and like see everybody else playing golf, and the holes are much more open. So it used to not be one of my favorites, but now it is. I think it's a Fazio. And, Pinehurst does add that a lot if you're looking to book like 4 rounds on your trip. It's a good addition. And the nice thing about it is they just added a bunch of cottages. So for people who like don't want to stay in a hotel, you can get all your buddies in one of the cottages, and they're on hole 8 at number 8.
That is delightful. I do think that's like one of the things that the Sand Valleys of the world, the Bandon, and really the destination clubs have done so well, is the idea of the cabin, and you go to dinner, but then you have this great place to just hang out with your friends for a nightcap, or it's the morning and you have a little time and you kill it in the living room. I do think that the cabin experience when you're on a trip is delightful.
Yeah.
You talked about the packages. Like the way I've generally seen it done is like 2, 4, 10, 8, or 2, 4, 8, or 2, 4, 10 are the popular ones. Is that pretty much the only way to get number 2 access at this point, is through the packages?
That's how I see it. Yeah, it is really hard. And if you do get on, you may be starting on number 10, like hole 10 of number 2. And then you're finishing on 9. That's a way that they try to get more rounds out there. So if you like really just want to guarantee playing number 2 and starting on number 1, you'll probably have to stay there on site.
I mean, there are far worse things. I do think, like, in terms of like how I would rank the golf courses in the area, I think it's kind of Pinehurst number 2, and then you can put a bunch of courses in a second bucket, and we'll get into some of the ones in Southern Pines, which include Mid Pines, Pine Needles, Southern Pines.
Yeah.
And then I think I would put probably number 10 in that bucket. I am not the biggest fan of number 4. I like it. I think has it reopened from the closure, and figuring out the grass. I think it's a good golf course, but one of the things I take away from that project, having been out there, is like just how much work goes into undoing an old golf course to redo it. And I think like it's not my favorite, but some people like 4 more than number 2. So in terms of the way I would think about it, like if I was going to go there for 4 or 5 days, I'd probably want to hit at least 2 of the Pinehurst golf courses in a trip like that. You made an interesting recommendation to me. I was going last fall for Tom Doak's Renaissance Cup, and I had a choice of where to stay at Pinehurst between the Carolina, the Holly, and the Manor. And I was surprised at what you suggested, but then pleasantly surprised when I got there. What is your preferred place of occupancy of the Pinehurst Resort?
Did I tell you the Manor?
Yes.
Yes. So I really like the Manor. Pinehurst Resort acquired it a few years ago, and it sits right next to the Pinehurst Brewery. And then in addition, within the Manor is the North and South Bar, which is a whiskey bar. It's you're not at the Carolina, which is the marquee, the Queen of the South, as they like to call it, hotel. But the Manor, it's a little smaller. It's quaint. They have like a little library down there, and you can still walk into the village. You can still walk to the brewery. It's very central still, but it's just off the path.
Yeah, the Carolina doesn't really do it for me.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know why. I'm not like a huge fan of the Carolina. I found the Manor to be much more my kind of speed.
Sure.
It was a little bit quieter, less going on. Honestly, sometimes for me, like I prefer less service than more service. And that was something that, like, I know like everybody's all about, but like to me the Manor was just like kind of like very chill,
Right.
and laid back, and that was I really liked it. And as you said, the location, I think something that, like, I know that some of these packages come with food. Like, I mean, the job of a resort, if you're running a resort, what you're thinking about is like, how do we maximize, how do we get every dollar of somebody's spent?
Sure.
What I would say, as someone who has frequented the area, and I think you would probably agree with this statement, and I'd lean on you for specifics, but to me, if I go to Pinehurst, the Pinehurst area, where I want to hang out at night is nowhere near Pinehurst, and I want to be in the Southern Pines area. Would you agree with that?
Yes. So what I will say is that I think it's pretty awesome that you can go to Pinehurst Resort, and what makes it unique compared to all the other resorts in America is you can walk into a village where like people live and like breathe and love golf. So you can spend time in the village and still like maybe not go to a resort. I recommended Lisi in the guide, and Lisi's this Italian restaurant that is just like, it's so good. It's a gem for the middle, a landlocked North Carolina, and has a great bar. But that's really one of the only places I'll actually eat in the village. I live closer to Southern Pines, and that's where I spend most of my time off of the golf course. And a lot has popped up there in the last few years because there's a big military presence in Southern Pines. So there's a ton of families that live in the area, and just like a lot of like business growth. So plenty of good spots in Southern Pines.
Yeah, my wife and I like contemplated moving there years ago. We like looked around. We stayed there and we really liked it. I think this is like a big miss of people, is that they go to Pinehurst and they just stay at the resort. I think going to like Southern Pines for food, beverage, coffee in the morning is like an excellent move. And it, as somebody, I probably spend a little bit more time at resorts, albeit this year I haven't really spent any time at resorts, but I spend more time at resorts than most the common person. I feel like sometimes at golf resorts, I get like kind of resorted out. There's just something about being, I like to get to where like normal people are.
Yeah.
And to me, this is the cheat code of Pinehurst is, if I were building a trip to go to Pinehurst, I would do the minimum trip to there to get to play number 2. And if I had the ability to play a few more days, then I would probably go rent an Airbnb in Southern Pines. And albeit, I think this is probably going to change with Marine and Lawn coming into Southern Pines and doing the Mid Pines. That was the news a couple weeks ago that they're going to rehab a lot of the lodging around Mid Pines and Pine Needles. But while it's set up the way it is, I think the ideal trip there is a couple days at Pinehurst to play number 2, maybe play number 10 in another course. You can pick your poison. Then hop over to Southern Pines, Airbnb there, and enjoy kind of small town North Carolina living at its finest. I think that, like, because of obviously the golf tourism, Southern Pines punches way above its weight in terms of food and culture in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's plenty of places to stay. You can find Airbnbs right on that main Broad Street, or you could stay somewhere closer to Pine Needles, Mid Pines, Southern Pines. It's all like everything, even if you drive between Southern Pines and Pinehurst, it's like a 10-minute drive, like nothing's far. And then once you're in Southern Pines, everything's like 6 minutes away, I would say. So you can't really go wrong with the accommodations there. And then, I'm super interested to keep track of the Marine and Lawn development. It'll just be fascinating.
We stayed there for the U.S. Open last year, and it was like, after spending like a week there, it's just like, God, this place has so much potential. All three of those golf courses, Southern Pines, Pine Needles, and Mid Pines, are like terrific golf courses, wonderful golf courses. And I think the accommodations there have like a lot of room to grow.
Right.
But it does offer, I would say, a much quieter experience to Pinehurst.
Yeah.
Kind of a welcome, like much more like quaint experience. Like if you contrast the Mid Pines or the Pine Needles bar to, the Deuce, it's like you couldn't be more diametrically different.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to find like 4 old guys sitting in the Pine Needles bar, just like who've been going there every night for the last 30 years. So just keep an eye out.
It's a great bar too. It's got the low bar with like the cozy armchairs. Elite golf bar, I have to say.
Yeah, it's great. You like walk down the little pit and there you are.
Yeah, I love those bars that are like sunken down. It kind of it's definitely like a bygone design style for a bar, but one that it's very easy to spend a lot of time at.
Yes.
In terms of what are your favorite, I guess, we just hit on those 3 golf courses, but what are your favorite courses outside of like the main, known golf courses in Pinehurst? Because I know there are other ones there.
I mean, granted, these are all private courses. So some of them are like going to be harder to access. But I really do love Dormy Club. It's a really fun place to play. They've kind of changed their model a bit too, where you have to stay and play with a member on site. But, it's definitely, outside of the Pinehurst area. So you do feel like you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And it goes back to, that stay and play of like a tree farm or those other locations where there's not many rounds out there every day, but it is really fun. And then CCNC, Country Club of North Carolina, is really great. They hosted the Junior Am not too long ago on their Dogwood course. And it's another good place. And then I play a lot out of Forest Creek, which has 2 Tom Fazio courses. But I'm not sure about many other like public access courses aside from Tobacco.
I think like the thing I would say about public access there is, most of those golf courses are built like one of the just key ingredients from the jump of golf is land, and the topography, the natural elements of golf there, plus the sand makes a lot of those golf courses that are not the big ones really fun to play, because they have the elements of, hey, this isn't maybe the most in vogue architect or the most, well thought of golf course, but this is worthwhile because, you're playing golf on nice land with well draining soils. Where do you fall on Tobacco Road? We've never talked about this.
I know. So funny quick story. I took my dad out there like 3 years ago for his 60th birthday. And, we finished first, my husband and I and his friends. And then behind us is our dad and my dad. And I'm like, what'd you think? Cause like, it's so big and sprawling and like, it's wild out there. He goes, fucking hated this golf course. I was just like, okay, got it. So I naturally bought him like the tie-dye t-shirt with strands on the front. And that's his gift every year. So it's some sort of Tobacco Road gift. It's like so gimmicky, right? Like you're just playing like Target Jurassic Park golf out there. It's definitely like a sight to behold, but it's not my favorite. It's kind of really expensive. So
that's one of the crazier things. I went there like 8 years ago, and I think at that time the peak rate was probably about $150 or so. And I think now it doesn't push up into the 300s.
Yeah.
And I think that's like where, I thought playing it, I thought there's some really neat stuff out there.
It's visually like really fun to explore and like run around.
And there's some really good golf holes out there too. But but for the price at this point, it becomes like I think it's a place. It's one of the more unique golf courses you're going to see. It's and obviously there's a lot of love for Mike Strantz in the world of golf. I might not be the head of the Mike Strantz Society whenever it comes up, but I used to say, yeah, this is absolutely a must play, must see. But now, like with where the price is going, it just, to me, I don't know. I'd rather go play Pinehurst number 10 for that price.
Sure.
And play it a bunch.
Yeah.
It's a more walkable one. I think that's one of the things is walking up Tobacco Road, not really a fun thing to do. That being said, it is like, I think like the thing that people could take away is like, it is a one-of-one golf course. And it's, if you have the means have the means to, do a bunch of golf courses down there that are $300 or plus, like, yeah, do that. But I think like you get a lot more value out of the Mid Pines, Pine Needles, Southern Pines than you do going to Tobacco Road.
And that's like the big thing about the Pinehurst area. There, you're going to do more than one trip there. If you, really love golf and maybe you really enjoyed playing that type of like topography and the rolling terrains and the sand, like you're probably going to go back. So like maybe it's just for the second trip.
It's true.
Yeah.
I do like that is the unique thing about Pinehurst. It does feel like a place that you can go multiple times, more so than other ones. I think Sand Valley now with like its proximity to the Midwest is probably one that people feel that way.
Yep.
But I do think that's where Pinehurst. You are you're really into food.
Yes. I love eating.
I mean, it's delightful. Who doesn't love libations?
Yes.
And food and drink. What's the place that you unequivocally say you can't miss there?
So in Pinehurst, I would say Lisi. Like it's a great meal. The atmosphere's fun. They've got the patio. The indoor space is fine. They've got the bar. In Southern Pines, I really like 195 American Fusion. They have a good outdoor patio. And the menu's pretty unique for the area.
We went there.
We did go there. Yes. They have a really good cocktail list as well. It's just like good variety. It's different food. It's, when like you were saying before, when you eat resort food, you're having like meat and potatoes or like salmon and potatoes every single meal.
It's that Cisco truck that backs in. It's like not Cisco, our fine technology provider partner, the food company. It's like the same one that brought you all your meat to your door when you were in college.
Right. So you want to switch it up. I do like 195 American Fusion. There's Chef Warren's is really good too. It's a French restaurant that's really solid. And just, again, like unique dishes. I don't know how much PJ is going to eat at either of those restaurants. Probably not much, but maybe we'll convince him when he makes his next visit to the area.
I'm going to offer one stay away.
Yeah.
This is just a personal experience. Stay away. Don't go to the Beltree Tavern. It's my stay away.
Yeah.
Don't go there. Underrated, low key, great low key option.
Oh, sure.
For people that enjoy like a nice porch and go to Southern Pines Brewery, order some Uber Eats.
Yep.
And just sit there, enjoy some beers. I feel like I love the patio they have that just it kind of sits up. You get a nice breeze and you just order your food there and you can just enjoy that.
Yeah, get soap pies for pizza. Just bring the pizzas over. It's an easy meal. It's good people watching too, because across the street there's a few restaurants and you can just like watch people walking around.
What's the pick to click for coffee?
So in Southern Pines, I really like a new place called Maisonette. They have just, it's a classic coffee shop, but they do have some food. And if you don't need food, Amor Ciego is this like Colombian coffee shop that's really solid. And they make fresh croissants every morning. It's very good.
I went to Maisonette. You recommended that for
Yeah.
me also. If you have your kids, they have kids' toys.
Yes,
That's
a
one
lot
thing
of kids there.
I would point out. I was there working. I have a young kid, and I was looking around. I was like, I could conceivably drop my kid here and get some work done because of the kids' toys. I think kids' toys in coffee shops are like, they're brilliant. It's the only way you're going to get a parent with young kids into to sit at a coffee shop.
Yeah, and they do. They're there all day. So it's a good spot, though. And it's just easy to walk up and down that main street in Southern Pines and like pop in and out of shops. You know, they have a really good bookstore. There is even a Pinehurst like shop there, too. So if you're like, well, I got to get the merch, like you can still do that. It's just like a really nice place to walk around and kind of see what the community is actually like.
I'm a big fan of Southern Pines.
Yeah.
But other tip from me, just don't speed in Moore County. Once you get close to Moore County, it's not worth it. They're gonna say that you have to come back for court in person, and the only way to get out of it is hire a local attorney. It's gonna cost you an arm and a leg. It's gonna be the most expensive speeding ticket, normal speeding ticket that you can find. That's just a personal anecdote. When you get close to Moore County, do not speed whatsoever.
Well, and they trick you. It goes from like 65 to 55 real fast.
You come over the hill, that's right where they got me. So
it's dangerous.
Just be careful with that. It's a pain in the ass. Speaking from personal experience. Any parting Pinehurst advice?
You know what? Don't assume that you can get an Uber from Pinehurst back to the Raleigh airport. You really can't. So rent a car. If you're staying at the resort, they have shuttles that will take you to and from the Raleigh airport. I just had a friend visit and she had like multiple Ubers cancel on her. You can't get Uber here in Pinehurst.
You know, the last time I did this, the guy that was driving me was pitching me on he wanted me to buy his cab business. I was like, I'm not getting in the cab business.
No, thanks. Yeah. So it's a great place to visit. One thing we didn't talk about too is like when, I would say like peak time to visit Pinehurst. I would say like March to the end of May is really awesome. June, you were there for the US Open. It's really hot and really humid.
I didn't think I walked away from that week not being okay.
Okay. So like you could probably go through June.
Wasn't terrible.
Yeah. It gets
I was
really
expecting
gross.
Worse.
Yeah, it gets really gross in July and August. I think they might even have like off-peak pricing during that time. And then the fall is beautiful. It's so nice to visit.
Like November.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Sometimes we played on Christmas. So
what's like people always wonder about January through March.
Yeah. So I mean, last year we did get a little bit of snow. It lasts like a day. But like if your trip is booked during that time, it's just not ideal. It's, the grass is dormant, which is like really fun to play on and like visually really cool. I would say it's really hit or miss in January and February. March, you can get away with it.
I went one time in February or March. It was when I lived in Chicago. I was kind of naive. I was
thought
like,
it was going to be
fine.
nice and warm.
It's not Chicago, you
yeah.
know? And I was like, God, it's not very pleasant down here right now.
No. It's still like, it's not the South. It's not like Florida.
Raleigh's definitely the way to go getting in there.
Yeah.
It's the drive from Charlotte. The first course I played in Pinehurst area was Dormy, actually, when it was public. And it was, my buddy got married in Charlotte, and I was in my mid-20s. I drove all the way out there and back, and that was not a fun drive from Charlotte.
It's pretty far.
If you can do the Raleigh airport, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Drive from there.
Yeah. So no, I mean, we obviously love it. We lived there for the last 3 years. And I just think like more continues to develop in the area, but ultimately like it really is all centered in golf in both communities, which works well for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. You can read Abby's full guide. She's got a lot of recommendations on the website. Lots of wrecks. It was great having somebody that actually like lives somewhere do the guide. Because
Totally.
I don't know, that's like my favorite thing when I go travel somewhere is I usually like to talk to somebody that lives there to find stuff. And this was great. So thanks, Abby, and we'll have you on again sometime.
I hope so. Thanks, guys.
We'll see what's next. What's the next guide?
Oof, I don't know.
You may be the only person that's been to Cabot.
Yeah, I could do Cabot.
Yeah.
So let's go to Halifax.
It's so hard to get to.
Yeah.
It's a topic for another day. But like when I talk to people about getting there, it's like, I'll just go to Edinburgh instead.
Correct.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Big thanks to all my guests for joining me on this podcast. Check out Fried Egg Guides at thefriedegg.com. Just peruse the website. It would be my piece of advice. There's a lot of stuff up there. And big thanks to PJ Clark for editing and producing this podcast. This one was kind of a beast to put together. So big thanks to PJ. We'll be back next week with our preview, 5 things about the Ryder Cup with now Fried Egg team member, Kevin Van Valkenburg. We're super excited to add KVV to the team. He will be a fairly regular guest of this podcast. We've got, and also another reason to go check out the website. More writing on the website. He will be a regular contributor to our newsletter. Subscribe to that, and can't wait to see the stuff that KVV puts together for the Ryder Cup, which is right around the corner at Bethpage Black. So we'll have 5 things about the Ryder Cup coming live on Sunday, as we usually do for majors. So check that out there. And big thanks to everybody for listening. And we'll talk to you next week.